Behold the mighty bull moose, largest member of the deer family in North America. May stand 7 feet at the shoulder with weights reaching a half-ton or more. But in Minnesota, the most impressive fact about moose is a question. Why are these native giants disappearing? Down from a peak population of 8,000 a few years ago to roughly 4,300 today. In reality, the state's moose collapse actually began in the northwest corner.
In the northwest, it really started to go up in the early 90s. And that population really crashed through 96, 97 when the season was closed and kept going down. And by the early to mid 2000s, that population really is all but gone. We didn't start to see the same things in the northeast Minnesota moose population until really around 2008 to 2010. We started to feel like there were things going on.
For DNR wildlife scientists, despite years of study, what's causing the moose decline all across northern Minnesota remains a mystery.
The calf mortality project is what we're working on now. Really, it's kind of unknown what calf survival is, what are the different mortality factors of, that are affecting these calves.
Leading the study is DNR's Glenn Delgitis, with 22 years of field research, this time looking at the life and times of newborn moose. How many are living, how many are dying, and why?
This is the first study that has put GPS collars on calves of moose.
There's one problem. A cow wearing a GPS collar who just gave birth to a calf doesn't exactly volunteer to be captured. So moose rodeo pilots hired by DNR take to the air from the airport in Ely.
We use a radio tracking antenna off this helicopter and we go in on the cows that are about to give birth, and we use that system to spot them in very thick brush here. And once we spot them, we see if they have a calf with them.
Once we get close, the cow generally scares away. We just run in, catch the calf. They're very, they typically don't try to hide, and they're not very fast, so they're pretty easy to catch. You basically just walk up and grab them. And the whole capture might take, for a single calf, might take 3 to 4 minutes. For a set of twins, might take 5 minutes, and then we're out.
Head out that way.
Mama cow usually stays nearby.
So we'll keep watching for the next 24 hours or more, and we've been very pleased to see that most of the time she comes back. So what we have here is a female that just calved. She had twins, and this is the mother here. So that's her first location for the last 24 hours of locations, and we're getting hourly locations. And we can actually click on that location, that first location. And as you can see, that gives us the ID for that animal, it gives us a date, the time, and it gives us the actual location. The biggest thing is that these collars will also send us a text message and an email within hours of that collar going into what we call mortality mode, meaning that the animal is likely dead.
Ear tags here. It's very troubling, and hopefully we'll be able to answer some of these questions, and it's the complexity where it comes from.
Coming up, the moose radios begin to reveal why moose are dying, and later, how the cupcake lady in Edina has helped save Minnesota's moose. If the world is being run by computers, so too wildlife scientists increasingly rely on their screens to provide clues for why Minnesota's native moose population seems to be fading away.
Those green squares give us the first location of the last 24 hours. The red squares give us the last location of the mother and her 2 twins for the last 24 hours. So this is a really, really valuable tool, especially for monitoring causes of mortality, because we can determine where they are and we can get the GPS coordinates right away. When it goes into mortality mode, we get that signal and we can go out and check on it very quickly.
Months later, researchers slowly began to piece together the life and times of a Minnesota calf moose. How many never reach adulthood? But the big question is, why?
So our predictions at the outset of this study are that wolves and especially black bears on the newborns are the two primary factors.
Indeed, of 34 calves with telemetry radios captured last year, 25 of those calves, or 74%, are already dead. All but 3 killed by predators, likely timber wolves and black bear.
I certainly hear from folks saying, well, we should just kill all the wolves, we should kill all the bears. And of course, you've got another side of people who say you shouldn't kill any wolves or bears. But if you split that down the middle, the reality is killing no wolves or killing all wolves likely won't change the final outcome until we figure out what happens with adults.
162.
In other words, if adult cows were surviving and giving birth to more calves, researchers say predation would not be a limiting factor. But with both calves and cows dying at such high rates, the moose count continues spiraling downward.
So even without predation, you're not really changing the end result because those adults are still dying anyway.
If the moose mystery is ever solved, you can expect a sweet celebration here, a most unusual setting far from the North Woods. Believe it, a cupcake shop called the Sweet Retreat near 50th and France in Edina. Look closely. There's a hint of moose love amid the assortment of sweets. Makes you wonder why.
You know, they're just a beautiful animal. When you see one, it's like seeing an elephant in the woods. I mean, you can't believe how enormous and magnificent they are, and they live up in our North Woods. It's just incredible. It's our vanilla buttercream frosting.
Robin Johnson has been the cupcake lady here for nearly 4 years.
These are all my own recipes, yes, absolutely. Just, experimenting for a couple years in my own kitchen.
And then one day,
I started seeing news articles about the decline in the population, and I just did a lot of research on my own and looked to see what other states were finding. What I decided that I could do was to support this research, because there's only so much money they get through their grant. Just a collar, I believe, is like $2,400, one collar. Then they have to pay to have a helicopter crew come in and, just the field work and all this stuff. So I thought, well, I'm going to try to raise money to help.
So what's a cupcake lady to do? Bake more cupcakes and cookies, of course.
My very first fundraiser was to make moose cupcakes, and we were able to sell like 1,800 cupcakes that day.
But Robin had more moose ideas in the oven.
Save Minnesota Moose is my nonprofit that I started, and it's saveminnesotamoose.org.
106.8.
Whether you are a hunter or you're just a wildlife enthusiast or a Boundary Waters person, it doesn't matter. We all want them. We all want them to survive, and people are happy to do what they can because you don't want to sit back and do nothing.
To restore moose in Minnesota, how sweet it will be.